All right, welcome to Bondcast, James Bondcast. I'm Matt McGregor, and I'm here with my lovely co-hosts, Harris McCabe.
Hiya.
Colin Shaw.
Hello, hello.
And our special guest for the evening, C.ROCC.
What up?
This is our first mini episode where we will just be focusing on the music of the show. If you're a longtime listener, you will know that one of the highlights of our show is that every episode starts with a remix of the particular Bond song for that whatever movie we do that month. So I would say most of the songs are made by Chris, but one was made by me, and one was made by a special guest submission. Yeah,
we'll say more about that when we play.
Yeah, we'll save that for last.
So what we're gonna do is just I guess Chris will just play the songs one at a time, and he'll kind of take us through the making of them, and we'll talk about which ones we hate the least, and
That's a good way to say it.
and we'll go from there.
Drop those beats.
Yeah, it's like a little listening party. All right, so I'll just intro each little one before I tap it.
Tap it.
Tap it.
You just want me to tap it?
No, intro it.
We're
Then
just
tap it.
noting that you said tap it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll be honest, I really mostly know 007 era, and my memory of I was watching, I guess it was, what's the 64 version? GoldenEye. So I would think I was, doesn't he fight a woman in GoldenEye?
Yeah.
For like in a cave or something like that?
Xenia Onatopp?
Yeah, okay. So here's my story. I actually closed my eyes because I thought it was a sex scene, which is retarded. Because it's like, why would you just watch it?
Yeah.
You're not going to get, it's okay.
You were a sheltered child.
I don't know what it was. I just have that memory for some reason. It was
Whereas
so dumb
now
in
you're like,
retrospect.
boobs. Back then you were like,
Exactly.
boobs.
It's amazing. You're so good at all this technology, and yet you clearly grew up in Amish country.
No.
The beard makes so much sense
It
now.
makes so much sense now. So I remember that. And then I had the idea to do a vocal sample of Bond, James Bond, because that is classic, right? So I was like, which era do I go for? And I was like, all right, I'll just do
Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, GoldenEye era, which is probably a cop-out, but so this is the original theme that we came up with.
For real, C.ROCC?
Yeah.
I think when you initially sent me for the first episode, we were working on this. We didn't kind of know how it was going to work. And you sent me a version of this, and it was missing Bond every couple of seconds right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was my one note. I was like, can you just have it say Bond more?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when I got that. And then I just different kinds of beats need different kinds of cadences or styles or whatever it was. And for whatever reason, it seems like almost every single Bond theme is like a trap tempo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're kind of slowish by nature, but if you double time the beat, then you can play it slow but have fast little drum rolls or hi-hat rolls or whatever it is. And that just seemed to always work with all of these, and that never was an intention. Because when I usually make a beat, this is it's far away from what I would make a beat, but I can't. Other than maybe the one that Kanye did, the Diamonds from Sierra Leone one, which I think he sped up or did something. But all I'm saying is the natural tempos of everything lend themselves to being kind of slower, and it's a singing song, and so I'm like, oh, what the hell am I gonna do with this?
Right.
So I you play it at a double time. So if it's actually 60 BPM, you set up the session at 120 BPM, and you play the beat at half time, but then you can make things go really fast in it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's cool when you chop up the song and you put effects on it to the point where it's almost indistinguishable. You know, when we get to one, I'll point it out.
I remember listening to this one, and I think I knew you least of all of us. So on one level, I was just like, I hope this guy is not like a flake and like there's no music coming ever. so when I heard it and it was good, I was like, yes.
Oh yeah, that was my same reaction. Was I'd never heard anything. I didn't know what you were capable of, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna get some good music in this show.
Yeah.
I would
like,
say
oh,
you're the
yeah,
diamond in
thank
the
God.
rough, like of this show. Like, really, I didn't know what to expect either. And I think I had listened to a few of your things on SoundCloud, and I was like, oh, cool, he can make beats or whatever. But like, I dick around, I can make beats too. But
yeah,
like,
everyone can say that.
yeah, you know. So but I can't do what you do. Like, it's really cool.
Well,
and
it gets difficult as we get further down the line. There's a few of these that were really tricky.
I also like, and this will make more sense once we play more. But like, there's an uptick in quality, I think, in all of them. Like, there's not one that's like, oh, okay, he really phoned this one in.
I feel like the last one I made for
Spy Love Me.
Spy, I was a little worried about it because it was so different. But I mean, we'll get there. But,
Yeah.
Because you guys, I was like waiting by my phone, being like, "This is gonna be the day that they're gonna go."
You're fired.
No more. We have other submissions coming in. We don't need to deal with this.
People trying to steal your job.
Yeah. Then the next one is Russia with Love, and that's when I was trying to figure out how to also come up with titles, because that's like you make a beat and you're just like, okay, like this is literally the last thing I want to think about is like what to call this.
Right.
But then I was like, oh, from C.ROCC with Love. That's
perfect.
kind of funny. And I guess the funniest story behind this is that I sent it to one of my girlfriend's friends, shout out Manu, and she sent me back a video of her freestyling to it because she was like so pumped on it. She was like, this is so tight. And she like did this whole little rap over it, but then she was like, "God, delete it. You can't show anybody." And I was like, "Well, that was weak then, I guess."
I was gonna say you got to play that.
I
So
know.
this no longer exists
So
anymore.
or maybe she showed me in person or something like that. But she had a video of it. I've seen a video of her rapping to this, and that's when I was like, maybe we got something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
C.ROCC.
The different beat tags.
Yeah.
If you notice that, there's the For Real C.ROCC.
And this is C-ROCC.
That was from a movie I worked on, and there was actually a woman in the movie who was like, over by the C.ROCCs. And I just chopped it up.
That's awesome. I think
This is my favorite Bond instrumental part, as I think we've discussed
Yeah.
it at length on the show. I love this so much. So this is
I
one
like
of
that
my
we
favorites.
you decided to do this song too, because like From Russia with Love doesn't really have a.
It's got a very
theme.
lame song. It was so lame they didn't even use it for the opening credits of the movie.
And we talked about it. We were like, we all love this song.
Right.
Like when they play it in James Bond movies, it's like a classic.
It's only a
thing.
Connery era song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that, and then I heard it, and I was like, oh yeah, this has got some pretty good drums in it, and like,
Timpani, yeah.
timpanis and like energy and stuff. And so I was like,
I love how like deep and hard the bass is. You're gonna laugh.
I love how penetrating the bass
the
is.
semen. I mean, the beat. Fuck. Yeah, but yeah, no, this one, and then you know what I noticed today is this is exactly 2 minutes. So when you do your 2-minute countdown,
We could use this.
we can just use this every single time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's why I was like 1 minute left. I was like doing that in the air because I was. But you totally nailed it. But
Yeah, this is a great remix.
I think this is one of my favorite. It's like a sleeper favorite one. There's not too much to it. It's pretty simple, but
Now, do you just have like stock trap beats that you just like use, or do you actually craft them yourself?
yeah, this is all like so. Probably shouldn't say this out loud because it's cheesy, but all of this is in GarageBand. Like everything that I'm doing is in GarageBand. So that's where all the sounds come from. So I programmed everything. Like I'd play it, and then sometimes you just, you just get your snare going, and then you start like I usually do that first, and then try to feel out how the drums would go, the kick would go in reference with the actual sample, because obviously you don't want it to not
Be
match
in
like
the
the
same-
cadence
yeah.
of it or whatever. And I don't do it like a sequencer where you push dots or whatever. I'm actually like playing it live out loud. And sometimes I'll just hit play and just play, like literally just like on the keyboard, just hitting a button with 2 fingers,
Wow.
making it feel right. Then I hit record, do it. You quantize it to get it all like lined up exactly right. But key with what I do that makes it not cheesy because of my actual sound background and Pro Tools background and stuff is that then I take every track that I make and solo it and export it out of GarageBand and then put it into Pro Tools.
So that you can do what? Put effects on them?
So I can compress it, I can sidechain it, I can EQ it, I can master it. It's like actually like what you would actually really do to a song. So I'm basically just using the program for
the bass elements.
Making it's like the MIDI, right? That you're just like telling it, here's drum goes here, and it has all the sounds built in because Pro Tools is not good at that. But sometimes what I have to do is I have to put the song into Pro Tools first, chop it up to whatever the tempo is, then export it into GarageBand, then take it back out each piece of GarageBand back into Pro Tools, and then I actually mix it, and I have this like beat template that I've made now. And so you drop everything in, stems out to like bass, percussion, instruments, whatever it is. And so like by the end of it, it sounds sharp and good, but it's just kind of cheesy because it's like starts out in GarageBand, you know?
Yeah.
Sick.
So you use GarageBand to kind of arrange it, and then you process it with the Pro Tools so that it has like the layers sounding all precisely like you want them to. Yeah.
Sometimes I play on GarageBand on my iPad, and it's sort of like a little kid would do. It's like it's like the same thing as like somebody playing with Tinker Toys telling an engineer, "Oh yeah, I've built little houses."
Yeah. Well, I'm sure like you have different drum kits that you like in there that you go to.
So there's an actual trap drum kit.
Right.
It's called Trapdoor in there that I just 9 times out of 10 with Bond, I just go straight for that after I figured that out or whatever. But then every once in a while I'll try to find, some different sounds here and there or whatever. But
it makes really good sounds. I wish I was a musician and also knew how to use it. But
so insightful.
Yeah.
All right. So then this one I just found out today has 100 plays. I don't know what's up with that.
Very popular.
For this show, that's quite remarkable.
So even like that snare right there, that's not how it sounded like out of the box. I think I put a couple together.
For real, C.ROCC.
There's the For Real C.ROCC is back. Oh, and I sampled the that's coming up right on the last.
Oh, I hear.
That's cool.
Yeah, I always like because what I found out in making beats is like if you sample too much vocals and then if someone's actually going to try to put other vocals on top of it, it kind of screws it.
Yeah.
So I try my best to find just sections of instrumentation that I can use and put together, but then sometimes it's just like that's fun. Like, it's not really a word. It's just like so it's like that just kind of has
it becomes an instrument.
Yeah, it just kind of has its own little like note or quality to it that you can use. So, and I really chop stuff up like a sound editor, I guess. Like I just take the pieces that I want, put them together. This one I think particularly like I made the loop first in Pro Tools and put that little vocal over it, and then brought it in, and then it was just easy from there because you have the loop.
I think my note for this one would have been I think I remember we didn't have time or something. I would have liked a Goldfinger, like kind of same as the Bond
I did
one.
it. No, that's a good story. I hated that note so bad. But I did it for the show, and I sent you a version of it, and it is in the podcast version of the
that's
show.
right.
So there's two versions of this floating around
I was
now.
thinking, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I feel like something's missing.
Because I was like, man, we just need to make it like as hip-hop as possible and as unrecognizable as possible, as you suggested, so it just lives as like a cool rap beat. That's what I thought, and I was just like, it kind of cheeses it up because it's like gold
Yeah,
finger,
that's right,
and you
right.
were like, and then I did it, and you were like, perfect, awesome.
Nice.
Anyways, that one's
I stand by my note.
popular, and
Well,
now
we all
now
like
it's-
the part when she sings it though.
Well, that's like the most famous part of the song. So it was meaningful for the show.
Well, that's a good segue into the Thunderballs, because I forget what the circumstance was, but either you were too busy. Yeah, you were. That was the week where I was like, dude, are you gonna make it? And you were like, fuck you, I'm on set. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, I have to pull this out of my ass. So
what's your process, Matt?
My process was I said, okay, what stands out about this song? What can I like build the song around? And I think for Thunderball by who sings it? What's his name?
Tom Jones.
Tom Jones. Yeah. The famous part is that he sings Thunderball, the word, at the end, and he holds it out for like 30 seconds. So I was like, he holds it out for long enough that I could probably sample that into being like an instrument. Exactly the same kind of thought process. I kind of just play it and I'll riff.
Because you can't remember what it sounds like.
I can't remember what it sounds like. Yeah. See, so I don't have the ability to, like you said, I'm just doing it by hand, and I don't like. What's the word you use to like make it so it's on beat?
Quantize it.
Quantize.
Yeah.
I don't do that, so you can tell it's like kind of off in places.
But you know who famously did that? Is Jay Dilla. He was like, he would play the whole beat. He would play like 4 minutes of it. He refused to quantize stuff because it gave it more of like a natural feeling.
Yeah.
Because like if people playing on a drum set, you can't quantize. That's how music has been forever.
When you say quantize, what does that mean to somebody who doesn't know what that means?
It's like taking the beats and putting them precisely on the timing that the computer has.
I see.
Right?
Yeah, to the timing of, so in music, like we're most used to like a 4/4 scale, and so you can say quantize by a 16th or an eighth or a quarter or whatever.
You do that in
extrapolate
GarageBand?
out.
Yeah, you can do it in GarageBand.
Oh, I gotta learn how to do that.
Yeah, I'll show you how to do it. And so it just lines it up to like whatever the nearest value is based off of the input that you give it, because you're just giving these little green MIDI bars that represent what that sound
and like
is.
if the line is here and you accidentally hit it like a fraction of a beat, like if it's here, you hit quantize and it just goes and puts it like.
But you have to be able to hit it close to something, because if you have rhythm like I do,
correct,
you could be so far away that you say
It'll snap
quantize
it
and
to
it'll just
the
be like,
wrong.
oh, yeah, it'll just be a mess.
Malfunction.
Well, that's it. Our next podcast is going to our next podcast is going to be a GarageBand walkthrough.
Yeah.
It's just a tutorial podcast.
We probably could.
Open up GarageBand.
So yeah, and then the next one was like this was kind of the era where it was like, yeah, you had just did that. I don't remember what made me so busy, but I was. And then I remember really wanting to do You Only Live Twice because it's very famously sampled. Least favorite Bond track that I did. It was really not coming together that well, and part of it is just like the one that Kanye did, which is like somebody already did this, so like I have to like
make it different enough.
Otherwise it's just gonna be like, what are you doing? Plus this was like, I was like, you know how you say frame fucking for editing or whatever. I was doing that with this because none of the beats were naturally, none of the sample was naturally lining up with the beat. So I was like literally like, here's one note, here's another note, I'd cut it, and then there was like an eighth of a beat like discrepancy to fill in. So then I'm grabbing the time expansion tool and Pro Tools, stretching it to make it fit, and then some are too long, and so I'm shrinking it, and I literally was having to do that like every 16th of a beat or something like that. It just wasn't clicking. It wasn't that good. And I remember sending it to you, and because you sent me a version which I gotta say was a little trippy. I couldn't even really catch the rhythm of it ever.
I don't remember even.
Yeah, and so I was just like, it's because I think maybe we were like, you'll do a couple beats, I'll do a couple beats or something like that, and I was like, nah, I gotta do something, and then we'll just see which one we like better. And you've obviously already forgot the one that
I just remember struggling and like just basically adding some beat to the song, being like, here, this is very basic, but run with this.
Yeah.
Let this be your guide.
I wish we had this.
So it's an unreleased
disaster, this Frankenstein train wreck that man made.
But here's my not so good one that we used.
It's such a not very
real, C.ROCC.
rhythmic.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I like this one a lot.
Well, it's got like maybe the best hook in any Bond thing ever right there, but it is hard to put a rhythm to that because it is so like,
and then I was
it's almost arrhythmic and sort
Exactly.
of flowing, and the song itself doesn't help you out much either because it doesn't have a very pronounced beat, even a slow one,
And that's when I started doing that beat drop, which now I do all the time.
this song taught you how to do that?
It was like around the era of other stuff I was doing or this or whatever, and I was like, oh, I'll throw that in. And then I had to do this part because I couldn't just do the same loop over and over again, which was just like, it's okay to me. It's really on my Bond scale. It's pretty low.
I like this one. I can tell that
made
you
it work.
like
Yeah, you did. I
that
like
you
the
had to
ending.
like work on it,
And I think
and
the
then
drops
I like
actually
the
really,
original
you know,
songs, and exactly the
necessity
way you
being
took
the mother of invention.
It
You
feels
went to
thought out and
silence.
worked on. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel phoned in.
Yeah.
I did work on it, but it didn't click like some of the other ones.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like sometimes when you have to work harder on something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It's like you just had to work harder to save it.
Yeah.
Which one did you work on for the longest time, and which one did you work on for the least amount of time? Or are they all about the same?
No, they're not. This one I definitely. Oh no, Live and Let Die I worked on the longest, and I think you guys probably all felt that. But that was feeling good the whole time.
Yeah.
And there were so many sections of the song that I was like, oh, I could
Right.
make this, I could do this, I could do that. So it was like that was easier. But some of these, even like the last one, it was like it was just cheesy. So I was like, I have to figure out a way to make this like hard. You know, I can't. It's just like it.
That's part of the fun. Is like
Yeah,
these songs are cheesy, and
yeah.
so to suddenly
very,
make
like,
them
lush
like
and orchestrated. You know,
Yeah.
Orchestral. I should
just to
say.
bring them down to the street level.
So then this next one is, I keep referencing the same one that Kanye did, and this is where I started losing it with titles. I just wrote hurt / me, because
Yeah.
I use that, her saying that, even the night don't hurt me. That's how, or maybe that's how the sample I'm doing it. I think she says it differently, but I split her apart.
Yeah.
In more ways than
Damn,
one.
dude.
Shirley Bassey, my bad, shout
You
out.
penetrated this track.
But the thing with this one, and then we'll listen to it, is that I uploaded it, and this was around when Kanye's newest album was coming out, and so about to come out, but he was doing all the like Trump stuff and saying that slavery was a choice, and like all that stuff. So it was already just like kind of irritated with him, then had to make the same thing that he sampled, which I thought was a good Kanye song, and it was a good era of Kanye. And then I was like, okay, I got to make it different than that, but it's so iconic and recognizable that I was like, shoot, what am I going to do? I made it. When I uploaded it first, I left a longer piece of the intro, which is just like a classic trope of making a beat with the samples. Like you just let the original song play
for a
until the first bar of the sample comes up, and then it jumps into your beat, and it's kind of like, oh, this is really cool.
Or you fool people who really wanted to hear the
Hear
original.
this
song. They're
original-
Like, God damn it, Chris Rock! I really wanted to hear Werewolves of London.
So I upload it. 10 seconds later, SoundCloud sends me a message back and goes, this contains an element of Kanye West's Diamonds Are from Sierra Leone. And I was just
When
like...
it didn't, right? It was actually...
It was actually from the original, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous. And it was actually, it's like, excuse me, but he sampled this exact same song.
And
it
that's
just means
acceptable.
To
he's
make
the
the-
one paying for lawyers to do that.
He's paying, or whatever the label is, but basically him saying there's all these algorithms now that you can, just like read a waveform. And as soon as that came up, it was like, oh, because I don't want you reposting my song or whatever. But it just cracked me up because it was like everything that he did was sampled.
Yeah.
I mean, Through the Wire, all the way through. I mean, if you look at his new album, it's like everything is like contained. Oh, that really, like he sampled Michael Jackson, and a lot of people didn't even know that on the song with him and T-Pain because he sped it up like. That was Pretty Young Thing that he just manipulated so much, and I'm like, get it, like, come on. I was like,
of all the things to
anything,
Yeah.
even if it came back and said you sampled Shirley Bassey, chill out, I would have been
Right.
like, you're right.
Yeah.
Didn't
Right.
sample Kanye West, and he sampled the same thing. So, anyways, here it is. So that was the new intro. I had to like just jump right into it. But this had to get a little bass line I had going. And all those, so I kept trying to use all the orchestra stuff that you were talking about more as like hits.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just take a piece of it and use it
It's not just like its own little note.
instead of like, the long version of it or whatever. but this had a good like hip hop vibe to it, so it was a little less trappy, you know. So I can see why Kanye took it as like a rap song. But I started doing, see how it like drop the beat out kind of and then bring it back. That kind of is like turning into like my little signature. And a lot of times I'll also try to take like a piece of the song, like I think I did with the bass line, and just EQ all the high stuff out of it and try to get that boom, boom, boom. That was in the song somewhere, but I just rolled off all the other stuff attached to it and then just turned it into a bass line. So that was all Pro Tools work, and then you bring it back. Sometimes, truth be told, I look up what is the key of diamonds or whatever, and there's like a key finder website that'll be like, this is in G major or whatever. And so it helps, because I don't read or play music at all. Like this is just all like just like a cadence I've always kind of had or whatever, but probably what maybe hurts things a little bit. But you can go into GarageBand and you can change the key, and you can say like F major or whatever it is, and then you can look at loops that might, like a bass loop or something like that, and it can kind of give you an idea. And then I can at least look at a piano and say, okay, that's C, that's D, it takes me, I can't just like play or anything like that, but I know it enough to do that. But like obviously if you're, trying to play some new instruments over it and it's in a totally different key, then it's like, okay, this is going to start to sound jumbled up or whatever. So I'll cheat with the internet a little bit. And then the other thing I use from the internet is a tempo finder. So you literally just tap the space bar on this website, and then it'll you do it for long enough, and it'll be like, that's 120 or like whatever it is. And then so sometimes what I'll do is I'll do the slow side of whatever it is, and it's like, this is 67. I'm like, damn, that's a little slow. And so I'll go tap, 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 and just do it double time. And then it's like, oh, you're at 140. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I can make a kind of trap. Because trap is sort of like techno, house stuff is like 120, 130. Trap is also like 130, 140, which is funny. But you don't play it on all the, because the electronic music does this. Trap is like, it's the same tempo. It's just half of the amount of information in it or whatever. So
right.
Anyways, this is the one. This is probably my favorite, and I think you even commented that you thought this was like the best one that I did. Yeah. Maybe you don't still feel that way, but you were like, I think this is like the one.
I played it I always play them out loud when you send them to me, just to kind of like hear it and jam out. And I happened to be home, and I played it for my 5-month-old daughter, and she was feeling it.
She was feeling it?
Yeah, and we had a little dance party too.
It was her favorite.
It was her favorite.
Cool. And she actually isn't even old enough to remember your original Bond beats.
That's true.
That is true.
So yeah, so that was easy, because he sang that clean, so there was nothing there, so I just took that. And then you hear that. You know that from the lyrics. Give it a try. The lyrics, but I EQ'd it to make it more just like an instrument kind of. So then I was like, okay, I did this part. Now there's this other really cool part in the song, so I chopped up the little guitar stuff.
Yeah, I like the layers in this one. Like you can really feel there's like, one thing going on, two things going on, three things.
That cool little snare roll. And then this one has such a good build up in it. A lot of the other ones just jump in. And then everything comes back together. And then I added that, like a little chops in there. So it's like,
oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, that little outro. Just kind of like, I started getting into that with, I sampled some turntable fuzz. like just from actual turntables I had or whatever. And then I don't remember if I put it in this one, but just like kind of the idea where you almost make it sound like it's coming out of like a gramophone or something like that.
Which you've done. I think you started to do with like the 2 most recent ones.
Yeah. So that's like a little thing I started trying to add to some of my beats. And then that little that thing is like it's called Verify in Pro Tools, and it essentially just mimics like if you hit a turntable
and it just
slows it down and stops it or whatever. So that's a really fun one always to mess with.
That one is probably my favorite one. That one's pretty great. And yeah, I think the song itself lends, like you said, because there's so many different parts that are like very different, you know, and clean, and you're able to grab things easily.
Yeah. Because it's like a lot of times, like sometimes like even if the original song drops and it's got cool drums and some other stuff going on, then you're like, I can't just take that.
Because there's other things.
Because it's got all these layers and stuff like that in there, so I have to try to figure out either like EQ it or amend it in some kind of way to make it okay. But that one was like he was like cleanly singing, and then there was cleanly a guitar, and then there was like, and then it just you just sometimes have a mind to be like when he says like give it a try, like that was. It's just that, like, as you're making the beat, sometimes you're like singing other stuff that you heard from listening to the sample, and I just kept singing that, and I was like, I don't really know how I can get that to work because he's saying something, but then I was like, oh, well, if I just kind of make it like a because then I was humming it, and then I was like, oh, maybe if I make it sound like it was humming, that could be cool. So it's like that one I probably did spend the most amount of time on, but it was everything was clicking the whole time, and it was fine.
You were inspired.
Yeah, and so I kept making the different sections, and then I did the arrangement where I was like, okay, I'll like do this whole build up and then bring everything back in at the end or whatever. But yeah, not some of the other ones that they're not clicking, and you have to work hard to save them or whatever. So this one, this is the crackling.
Yeah. Which works because this part sounds so.
It sounds old school.
Old school,
70s,
yeah.
Yeah, I like this one too.
I really like this sample you picked, but I don't know where it is in the song.
Yeah. I don't know what she was saying.
Honestly, you don't remember any of the words.
Yeah, I don't know
this one.
I listened to it a few times, but I just liked the way she was saying it.
Right. Yeah, because
And I just took it and just made it more like, so it's just 3 little pieces of it. But there was the same.
She's got the variation of the one time she goes up and the next time she goes down. It's a built-in variance.
A built-in little rhythm or note, kind of like arrangement. But there's my little drop, and then so I started messing around with adding amps, like a amp plug-in to different instruments. So I did that to the snare, and it gave it that like old school like Timberland like kind of crack to it, which I thought was really cool. Just trying, because I was like, I keep using the same instruments, and like I should just vary them as much as possible. But yeah, that one clicked. That one I could have probably made a little bit longer because there was enough stuff going on, and I feel like even if I would have just let that little crackly play again and then come back in with a beat, it could have been cool. But I'm also thinking about composing for. That's the hard thing with beats is like I'm composing it for the show technically, so I'm like I don't want to make it a 4-minute song before we're getting into a podcast. That's inappropriate, you know. But I'm also like, even if I'm making just a regular beat that's not a Bond sample or whatever, I'm also just like I kind of want to give the idea that there's could be some like variation of like a bridge or a hook or something, but really the main thing is that like you just want to have like the beat, like the part where someone would sing or rap over, and that kind of just becomes almost like the resume of like what it could be. Like if somebody wanted it, they're like, okay, let's stretch this out and now make this like I wrote like a 16-bar thing here and a 4-bar chorus and 4-bar bridge, and then you can kind of arrange. But at the same time, when you're making a beat, you can't just like blindly go into it and just be like, whatever, I'll just like have it play and then go away, because you still have to make it exciting. And then you still have to kind of almost like showcase it in a way and think about like if someone were rapping or singing or something like that over this, what might they like, or what might get too repetitive, or how's a way that we can drop out and come back, or whatever, stuff like that. So it's like that one, I think I made this one really fast too. Like this was one I probably didn't spend a lot of time on, and you can't really tell. And it's not because I didn't want to or I wasn't trying. It just was like, oh, I just somehow randomly found her saying that stuff and was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then there's that ba 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 ba, and all that other stuff. And so I just kept finding little pieces and suddenly putting them together. And I was like, oh, this was easy.
I think speaking to the length of these, and sometimes they are a bit long. I can't remember if I've actually done this, but there were times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to edit this. I'm going to like chop out the middle and just like whatever. But I definitely remember more than one time where I'm like, I would get frustrated, like trying to find a good point to like cut it and cut them together. And I was just like, you know what? This song is good. Like, let me just play the whole fucking thing. And I don't think I have edited any of them. I might have done one in the beginning or something, or maybe you sent me a truncated version.
I might have, yeah. I think for the original,
the very first one,
I think I made like a 30-second one or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I've tried to find that exact version before, and it doesn't. It's not on your SoundCloud. There's like a longer version.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, it's hard to cut these down.
So then this was the most recent one. Same little
use the
intro.
Yeah, the vinyl thing again.
I think I actually did a thing to make it kind of almost out of tune on purpose too. Like I put a little plug in to make it like the piano's out of key.
For real, C.ROCC.
That sound was so like, what was that? That's
that one?
Yeah, it was in the song, but I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
So this is way off, like in terms of style.
Yeah,
totally
yeah. This
different.
reminds me more of like chill step or whatever. You know, like that kind of style of like more like doesn't even have a vocal usually. You know, like
yeah. And I didn't put every snare in there. I used a lot of like 808, like low bass stuff. Did some EQ stuff, like little breaks, but that the little it's probably gonna go right now. Yeah, the little
Yeah.
That's from the song.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you just like took
Same
out the
thing.
highs.
I just took out all the highs and just and I just looped that for 3 sets basically, and then for the fourth one, then it has that. I'm like, what? I don't know if that's how the movie started or if that was in the song, because if you keep this clip you sent me, it does actually go into the first couple bars of the movie itself.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I was like, I don't know if it was like a thing from the movie starting or something like that.
When we're done, you'll have to play it and we can decipher it.
We can marvel over it.
Yeah.
But I thought that sound kind of saved me, because this one was the absolute worst. Like this was the worst sample, the worst rhythm, the worst. It's like, it's cool to listen to, but I'm like, how am I supposed to? It's basically all vocals,
Right.
Very slow.
slow
Vocals and piano. It's
So
like slow piano.
I sped it up, I think, from whatever it was. So I did not a trap approach where it would like, just double the tempo. I actually sped the sample up, and I thought of old Kanye, for lack of a better reference. A lot of people have done that, but I mean, he was
The
a
patron
very
saint of
popular person to speed up someone singing slowly, make a rap beat over it. So that was like, I was like, that can be my only thing to try to save this. But then it didn't really even turn out to be a rap beat. It was like something a little
funkier
and different. I did that same amp trick on the snare, so it's like that, like, it's like a little, just a different sound. And there's a lot of electronic toms in there. Like
that's what I like. Those sound really cool.
Is that
on
the Mario 3 reference?
Yeah,
because
yeah. It's when like he's like, you're going from like into level 1 to level 3, and the little
the pipe,
the little plants are moving up and down, and they're like
making a little.
Well, I think.
Our last guest.
The beats have been so good that one of our fans
wanted to have a beat off with you.
You were so anxious.
That's what inspired this episode, actually.
You're leaning in on that mic so hard just to get the same beat.
I've been waiting for so long.
Anyways, my roommate Tim who actually knows Harris and knew Harris before he ever knew me.
Good friend of my youngest brother, Michael. So yeah, I've known Tim since he was a little fella.
Right.
And all grown up and out here in Los Angeles, making his way in the world, making movies and dropping beats apparently.
Yeah, and he loves Chris's beats, and he also makes music, and he wanted to like get in on this thing, I guess. I don't know how you want me to say it. Yeah, contribute. Yeah. So he got a new computer not too long ago, and he's like trying to get his setup all good, and he's like, I really want to do a beat, and he did one. And
his SoundCloud is Tim's.
Oh yeah,
Tim's Got Rhymes.
Yeah, SoundCloud is Tim Got Rhymes.
Tim Got Rhymes, singular, not possessive.
Yeah, I immediately like the vibe of this one.
And he went through, this is like the end of the song where the song actually picks up a little bit of the beat, and there's like a little bit of a change in the rhythm before they do the outro. So,
but it sounds like he's kind of doing some of the same things where he's using some vocal, like like vocal things that aren't quite words in some spots to make it instruments. I immediately thought of like MF Doom or like, you know, something like that, like would totally rap over this, and it would be like just a really, it's just kind of like a loop, but it really works, I thought, and it's totally different, so that's really cool. And he sampled
I love this part, yeah.
Which is kind of a tendency of like a lo-fi beat. It's like you put a conversation or some mumbling or something like that over it, and then you bring the beat back in. So it's like he's using a couple different styles.
It's at a really good level too. Where
it's my favorite part.
Maybe I misjudged Stromberg. Any man who drinks Dom Perignon 52 can't be all bad.
And then it goes right.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been saying that like randomly around the house. You know, like
maybe he's misjudged Stromberg.
Maybe I misjudged Stromberg. Anyone? Sorry, it's funny. I'm not used to wearing the headphones.
Oh, I know.
So I'm like,
welcome to my world, buddy. Yeah, that one's a cool one, but that's a cool thing of beat making stuff. That's kind of what I was saying. Is like sometimes you'll have something stuck in your head, and rather than fight it, you just figure out how to try to make it work. So it's like he probably couldn't have ever made that into an instrument or something, but he's like, oh, you know, break the song down a little bit, put that in there, the same way that I was thinking about, just humming a part of a song. And then I was like, oh, if I could make it sound like it's in my head, so to speak, or whatever, then it could be cool. But yeah, so I guess that kind of wraps up our.
Oh, there was one with the one of our reviews for our podcast.
Oh, okay.
Tim wrote, and it was after I was like sitting around one day, and I came up to him and I was talking to him about an article I read about Blade Trinity and what Wesley Snipes was like to work with on that. And it just goes on and on about how ridiculous he was. And I was like telling him all this stuff. So he wrote a review on our podcast that's like, I think these guys should talk about Blade Trinity.
Suggestion noted.
I mean, I'm curious to see where the beats go from here because, I mean, my personal thought was that these earlier ones would be easier for you to work with because they're so instrumental and old-fashioned, and like you can easily put a beat over something that doesn't really have a beat, you know?
Right.
But now we're entering like the more like electronic age of Bond, and I think it's a big challenge.
I'm hyped on that Duran one
because these are very. I mean, Duran one. They get less and less iconic. Like they're less memorable. There's no, there's a lot of good songs and a good music coming up. But we've covered most of like the greatest, most iconic Bond songs that we're gonna get. So it's it's gonna be interesting to see these less familiar songs and what you can do with them.
Yeah, we're definitely getting into. Yeah, I would say the '80s are like the least iconic. in terms of music. Yeah.
Well, it's also such a different style of music because I'll keep it as brief as possible, but the whole reason why we sample soul records and old records is because that's when hip hop was being born, was off of like the parents' generation of babies born in the 70s or whatever. So like what they were listening to is what then you were taking to a turntable and trying to scratch or, add a beat to or whatever it was. And so then when the 80s came along, that's like a whole, like we got sampling, we got electronic instruments, like everything completely changed. So, and tempos change, everything. So it's like, now what do? You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of why that's why we never really sampled from that era. It's because it was like we had that available.
And also, it seems kind of weird to sample like a synth. Like why sample a synth
right.
thing?
It's already a sample.
Yeah, that's GarageBand already. So
yeah, it's already there.
Well, I wonder, like, are you gonna stick with the whole like trap music thing, or you're gonna maybe try and
it's gonna have to change?
Yeah,
It's gonna have to change. I mean, I've made some electronic sounding stuff before, and I imagine that might pop up a little bit.
I know what you're gonna do. Accordion.
So we'll see.
Tune in next week for the accordion beat.
All accordion episode.
All accordion episode.
All right, so is that the end of the minisode?
Do we have any clever outros?
No, just give us a shout out on social media. Bondcast, jamesbondcast@gmail.com. If you want to submit
if you want to get
your
into a
own
beat
songs, if you want to challenge us to a beat off, go for it. Send it, through email, I guess is the only way to do it.
we're gonna have to beat off on the internet unless you're local.
But beating off happens a lot on the internet. It's okay.
Yeah, it won't be the first time or the last.
I will say SoundCloud.com/C.ROCC.
Spell out the dot.
Spell out the dot.
DOTROCC.
Is me, and SoundCloud/
Tim
Got Rhymes. TimGotRhymes.
And you don't have one, right?
I don't have one.
Yeah.
I don't have enough.
So you'll
Neither
have to.
do I, because I don't have anything.
Yeah.
I don't have a personal one.
But yeah, so I have
I can't read or write.
Yeah, I can't read. It's a problem. I have a album of just a Bond rock album that I've started now from all of these. So we just discovered it's like 13 minutes or something like that. Because they're short little tracks, but by the time we're done with this, it'll be a bigger catalog. But if you want to listen to all of these back to back, it's
Do
in a
you
list.
know? Is there like a there must be a finite amount of time that an LP?
Yes, I just read about this.
How much time?
So what's confusing is well, it's not confusing. LP stands for long play, and the digital definition now for what it is 7 tracks. Can equal the very minimum of what an LP can be.
But what if each song is like 30 seconds long? Then it can do multiple tracks, but equated.
I think it has to equal 30 minutes though.
Oh, okay, 30 minutes.
Yeah, of 7 tracks. So if you notice, and I really don't like Kanye this much. It's like I keep saying his name.
Sure.
But his whole thing lately, and that's why I looked it up. I feel like he's cheating a little bit because it's like. His album was 7 tracks, Nas's album was 7 tracks, and then Tiana Taylor's album was 7 tracks. So it's like all you really have to do to make an album now is like just make 7 tracks, put it on Spotify. And
It's
you're
like
new
the
album's
least
out.
amount of work.
It's the least amount of work that you can do. So it's like
I
you can
noticed
do that
9
in a
Inch
week.
Nails just released something that was like either 5 or 6 tracks or something.
So that
like
would be an EP.
Yeah.
Whatever
which is
happened to the
shorter.
good old days when the album told a story?
I don't know, dude.
Well, what I was getting at was I wonder if at the end of this run and you have 25 unique Bond songs, or really 24 because we skipped On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Maybe we'll fill in that
Maybe
gap
we'll
somehow.
go back. Yeah, maybe we'll.
I wonder if you could fit it all on a vinyl and like press your own like Bond album.
That'd be
C.ROCC. That would be so sick.
That would be really cool. Maybe you guys could gift me that.
I was just gonna say that.
We shouldn't have said anything.
That would be
Now you
awesome.
just spoiled the surprise. You
Damn,
spoiled my surprise,
Mel.
Matt. I was going to take care of that. And now there's no point.
I got an album cover and everything. It's my little drawn face with the gun barrel.
I know. I saw that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But I mean, your stuff is great. I've gotten lost on your SoundCloud many a time where like you'll send me your
Sounds
song
very romantic.
and then it will continue to play and I'm like, ooh, that one's cool. Ooh. No, I really do. It's awesome. It speaks to your talent and why we keep you around.
So
'Cause
check it out.
It's not your personality, I'll tell you that.
CDOTROCK.
CC.
You called him Chris Rock before, too.
I know.
Did you hear that?
No, did I?
Oh, that was confusing to me. I thought he was talking about Chris Rock, and I was like, "What is he saying?"
It's confusing. I get his nom de beat mixed up with his normal name.
It is a combo platter. All right, but anyways, thanks for listening.
And go fuck yourselves.
Oh. Have a beautiful evening. Good night.
Go get lost on my SoundCloud. Bye.
Get lost
Somebody
on
play
the
Are you going
SoundCloud.
to play us out with
Yeah.
something?
Do we have any
Nah.
beats left?
We beat off enough.
All right. The end.